Hello, my name is Abby Eschbach. I'm the nutrition educator here at the Williamsport Healthy Food Hub. We're at the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, and today we are making chili mac and cheese. It's an easy one-pot, very simple recipe. It all comes together for a complete meal. Very nutritious and wholesome, and everyone in the family will be sure to love it. We are cooking with dried beans today, and they tend to have a reputation of being complicated to cook, but they're actually very easy. All you have to do is soak them overnight ahead of time, and then they'll be ready to go for you the next day. So, to soak your dried beans, I'm going to add about 1 pound of beans to my bowl, and then we're going to cover them with cold water. You don't want to start any sort of cooking process at this point, so you do want to use cold water. And cover the beans by about 2 to 3 inches of water, so they have enough water to expand in overnight. All right, my beans are covered about 2 inches with water on top, and I'm going to let them set right there overnight, and they'll be ready to go the next day. Okay, we have our soaked beans. They've soaked for about 12 hours now, and we are ready to drain and rinse them. Now, beans can be a little bit dirty. They might have little seeds in there, so you just want to discard any of the water and extra debris that might come off of them. All right, make sure all that excess water is off. So I have my beans, I've drained and rinsed them very well, and I put them in a nice pot and covered them with about 1.5 to 2 inches of water. I'm going to turn on my heat, and we are going to let that just simmer for about 1.5 to 2 hours. If you're in a little bit more of a rush, you can turn the heat higher. Just be sure to keep a good stir on it here and there, because you don't want them to stick to the pot, and you want them to cook nice and evenly. All right, I'm going to drain the beans, any excess water. And these are ready to go. We are going to start with our onions. So you want to take 1 medium onion. These are a little on the smaller side, so we're going to take these here. I'm using 3 just because they're a little bit smaller. And we're going to peel them and dice them up. And all these little scrap pieces can be saved if you're making stock for soup. They're always good to keep with other veggie scraps as well, maybe ends of carrots, things like that. Got your chicken bones, and you can add them all into a pot with water and let it simmer for a couple hours, or in a crock pot is great too. So homemade stock makes delicious meals. The ingredients in this recipe are going to be our fresh onions here. We have canned corn, dried beans. You can also use canned beans. We are going to use some stock today. Diced tomatoes. You can certainly use fresh if you have them. And then add ground turkey to our pot. And the ground turkey is nice and lean. It's a great source of protein, and it's just a really good addition for any meal. You could use ground chicken. Ground beef is fine too. That's going to have a little bit of a higher fat content. We are cooking with ingredients that we have an abundance of at the food bank. So today we're using elbow macaroni. If you wanted to, you could use whole wheat penne pasta. You could use orzo. That's a fun pasta to use. Totally up to you. This is a really versatile recipe, and it's a lot of fun to make. So we are going to start by sauteing our ground turkey. So I've added a little bit of canola oil to the pan just because the turkey is so lean. Put the ground turkey in there and just let all that moisture kind of cook out so that you do get a nice golden brown color on the meat. And along the way, just season lightly with salt and pepper. I'm going to add the chopped onions. Saute them just for a few minutes until they're nice and translucent. Let those flavors come together. We're going to season again with a little bit of salt and pepper. If you season really lightly as you cook, you end up with a really tasty, nice layers of flavor. And you actually end up adding less sodium in the end because you're flavoring along the way. I'm going to lower the heat. We're going to add our corn. Today we're using canned corn, so we have drained and rinsed it just to get all those preservatives off. So you're just left with the good corn. We're adding canned diced tomatoes with their juices. We're adding our beans. We're going to give that a nice stir, get everything together. And now we're going to add our taco seasoning. And again, this is a really versatile recipe, so you can adjust the seasonings however you like it. If you're not crazy about taco seasoning, you can use chili powder, you can use just salt and pepper is great too. It's delicious as is, but this gives it a nice kick. If you're using those seasoning packets, sort of look at the label, make sure you're not getting too much sodium in there. The sodium-free ones are best, and then you can adjust the salt as you like. We're going to add our stock and water. If you want to use all stock or all water, that's completely fine, whatever you have in your cupboard. We're using chicken broth, that's what we had in our pantry. You can use beef broth, veggie broth, whatever you might have in stock. Now that we have our water and our stock in there, all of our good veggies, all those flavors are going to start coming together as it comes up to a simmer. Once it's up to a simmer, that's when you add your macaroni. If you are using dried beans, you want to make sure your beans are nice and tender before you add your macaroni, because that macaroni is going to cook up quickly, and you want to make sure everything in the pot is already cooked through. So depending on what kind of beans you're using, if you're using canned, it's going to go pretty quickly. If you're using those dried beans that you soaked overnight, like we are, it's going to take about 2 hours at most. But make sure it's nice and low. Cook it slow and low for until the beans are nice and tender. All right, so we are up to a good simmer here, and we are ready to add our pasta. And for this recipe, we're using about 1 pound of uncooked pasta. You do want to keep in mind that it will expand quite a bit as it cooks. So it might not seem like a whole lot right now, but once it's all done cooking, you'll see that it gets nice and thick. So we are ready to go here. Our pasta is cooked through. It's nice and thick, as you can see, like a stew. And our final step, we're going to turn off the heat. We're going to stir in 2 cups of shredded cheese, and I'm using a Mexican cheese blend today, but you can use any shredded cheese that you like. It's going to make it nice and creamy and really delicious. You do have to give this a good stir or two, just to make sure the cheese is completely incorporated. It all sort of melts together. Otherwise it gets a little clumpy. If there are any dairy allergies, you can completely skip the cheese. Even a scoop of plain Greek yogurt on top is really good. Here it is, the final product, chili mac and cheese. I'm Abby Eschbach with your Nutrition Nugget here at the Williamsport Healthy Food Hub.